Hi, Ogwa.
Hi. Hi.
Oh my God, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me.
You're most
So,
welcome.
obviously, the point of this was to basically bring women that I really respect, and I admire their hustles and have conversations about, women and money, um, as regards the Small Money Tribe, which is the second book that I wrote. So, thank you so much, Ogwa, for this. So do you want to start by introducing yourself
Okay.
and then we can, just go with
Okay.
it?
Hi, Arese, and hi everyone listening. My name is Ogwa Iweze. I am a fashion entrepreneur. Well, that's like my first title, but all in all, I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own a brand, a women's wear brand called Design, and it's been on for 15 years.
Wow.
Interestingly, reading the book, there was so much that I mean, at some point I had to even go like, oh my God, like, did someone ask me questions before writing this book? Because it was so relatable in so many ways. And not even just
Yay.
because I was a fashion designer, but just even certain things in the book, just about life and, friendships and all that. Yeah, so, yeah, so that's who I am.
I may not have
I'm also
asked you
three,
questions in particular.
and
Sorry,
sorry,
what?
I said
Sorry.
I'm also a mom of three, and yeah, I just enjoy the good things of life. That's it.
Clearly, you should follow Olga on Instagram. Like she's gold. Like I love what you're doing, like with your brand, like how you're having conversations, how you're helping other up and coming designers to basically structure their businesses and all of that. So obviously, because I wanted to talk about structuring your business,
Okay.
especially as an entrepreneur, but especially like as a fashion designer, because one of the characters in the book, Tammy, is a fashion designer, and she basically struggles with, in the first book is about turning her hobby into a business, but with the second book is about, okay, how do we, now that we've decided that this is a business, how do we structure it? And it basically like chronicles her own pain points in building and scaling her business and raising finance, that kind of thing. And obviously, you're a fashion designer operating in the Nigerian market. And I'm sure that some of those pain points were real. So which one would you say stood out the most?
Okay. Um, so interestingly, I think obviously experience is such an amazing thing because reading through this story, obviously could identify with very different points in the story. One of the points being, and this actually inspired me to start something called Fashion for Profits. Because one thing I realized was that, there's so many brands, so many designers, not enough stories. There are not enough stories of like, okay, this is what I was able to do, this is how much I made, like physical, like actual numbers. You can go online and read about Fashion Nova doing $400 million in 18 months. There's no Nigerian brand that can actually put figures out there, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, they'll tell you security, you can't really declare, so people won't come and kidnap you. But I mean, I beg to differ in certain
Yeah.
ways because it's only because there's this whole emphasis on owner, and that's why people feel so like protective of, if not, the business should actually be a human being on its own. And if the
Mm,
business is declaring profits, it has nothing to do with you as a person. You might
yeah.
actually, just be one of the factors that have contributed to this success. So I could really relate with that. Seeing so much money pass through accounts, not being able to account for the money, not understanding, what's going on. Like, why are we not seeing this money? And now understanding a lot of things. One of my biggest mantras is inventory is death. And it was said by Amancio Ortega, the owner
Uh,
um, of Zara. And it basically means a lot. And I'm sure if I say this, every time I say it to people, it's like a light bulb moment. They're like, ah. So one of the exercises I gave to people after one of my classes, like before the lockdown, was that they should go into their stores and take stock of everything they have. Um, in Nigeria, they make you believe that you have to start a brand in a certain way. So you have to do all these big things. You have to buy all the colors of lining, and I'm being very technical here. The thread, you have to. There's certain things that is almost like it's part of starting a brand. You have to rent this space. You have to do X, Y, Z, and way back, maybe when there was no social media, but now things are so different. So most people go in with that whole idea, and what happens is 3 or 4 years down the line, you have so much stock in inventory. Fabrics, you go fabric shopping, you have no budget, you have no plan, you just see a beautiful fabric, you don't want anyone else to
Like,
have it, you just
yeah.
pack everything, dump it in your store. Personal experience, I would say, is every time I want to go fabric shopping, because it was passion, I was so excited. So I'd go into the market, I have all these customers who are always like, madam, I get new prints, and then I would you know, just see the fabric and I'm like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. I have no design, I have no plan. I just feel like, okay, I need to get it. And then because I don't want anyone else to have it, I just take everything, right? So all that money that is sitting in the account is going to different places, but you don't even realize it. And eventually, you can't pay salaries at the end of the month because you've put all that money into fabric. You haven't translated that fabric into clothes, so the fabric is just sitting on your shelf.
Do
You
you
have
know
your lining, you have your thread, you
what?
have a lot of things. So that inventory is death, I think, is the major thing. And then aside from that, it's also in that a lot of times being a creative person is not the same as being a financial and money person. Creative people are a little bit different. So, it's very difficult to have that two in one. And I think that, not necessarily having a partnership, just having someone who handles the books and is in charge of
Let me take
money.
you back a little bit. Like, I love what you said about how, like, in Nigeria we can't really point at different stories to say, oh, this one made $400 million, this one, and I do agree that, I don't know, we live in a market where you don't want to be announcing certain numbers so that your village people, as in, don't call for you, right? But I think that mostly is because, especially like in the fashion industry, but I think that this is generally true for many SMEs in Nigeria, is that we focus more on brand as opposed to business, right? So somebody wants to become a fashion designer. She sees Ogwa on Instagram and she's posting and she's doing all these fabulous things, to
Yeah.
promote her clothes, and she looks amazing. And, you know, I want to start a fashion brand as well. So I'm going to start posting, I'm going to start doing this. And maybe your brand grows and you become more popular and the demand, for your product is there. But then what I find is that the supply, they now don't have the capacity or the supply
Mm,
to be able
mm,
to deal with it.
right.
And it comes from a few things. One, not being able to like interpret your financials, right?
Right.
People just, like you said, going to the market, buying fabric, doing all these like amazing things that are cosmetic. So it looks
Yes.
good, but it's not translating to profit because you don't know how much fabric you're buying, how many
Yeah.
clothes, how many outfits is going to make, how you're going to market it, how many units you plan to sell, like in one collection. I find it so interesting, like that we're so like focused on the cosmetic stuff. So cash can be coming in, you can have revenue, you can have like high revenues but not be making a profit, right?
Yeah.
Still be
Yeah.
making a loss. So what have you found? So every time I say, oh, interpret your financials, because you that way you're not making assumptions, you're making decisions, right? People always say, but numbers are hard for me and all of that. You tell me, like, as a fashion designer, right? Obviously, I don't know that you have a finance background, do you?
I am actually a chartered accountant, but
Woo!
story for another day.
So I was going to say, because maybe like, how did you, but then obviously now you have a degree in it.
Okay.
So how did you sort of like navigate like the aspect of interpreting your financials so that you could go from making assumptions to
Yeah.
making decisions?
Okay, so I think it's really important to recognize that yeah, the money is not just going to automatically calculate itself. One of the things I did was over time, I have a manager, luckily, who has been, with the brand for about 10 years now. So we've grown. I realized that a lot of people start with saying they can't find the right staff. Oh, I don't have people, I have to do everything by myself. And I think that in itself is almost like you're affirming, and you keep saying it over and over again, and nothing ever changes. So, even just first step is just having faith in the people you employ. And when I say faith, I mean major faith, like faith in God. Like you literally have to give them the um, go ahead, like guys, be great, do this
Yeah.
thing, let's build this brand. And then when they start to get that vision with you, a lot of things will start to happen. They would even be the ones to say, this, okay, so I'll give an example. We put budgets down, this is what we need to do, and my manager is checking over time. We don't have money to do this. We can't execute this now. That's one, and that just tells me that she understands better. Now, even just having a rough idea of how much you need to make every month to pay salaries, pay your rent,
That's
pay
very
your
good.
bills
Yeah.
before you even talk about profits is so key.
Mhm.
I saw a video going around on Instagram about how, as an entrepreneur, you come last.
Yeah.
And it was a wake up call for me because I was like, man, so all this work I do, my staff have to be paid. The government has to be paid. The bills have to be paid. My landlord has to be paid. Everyone else has to be paid. I literally come last. So if I'm not making enough money to sort out these bills, how the hell am I going to make money for myself? Because and watching that, I realized that, I sat down with my manager and we did like a very simple breakdown because she doesn't have like a master's degree in something, but I realized that,
Just applying logic.
yes.
Yeah.
So first things first is, okay, we make money from different sources. How do we see what we're making? It comes into one general account, and then at the end of every week, we now sit down and break everything down. So salary account is different. The profit account is different. That main account is like the account that everything comes to. So even just simply doing things like that, now it's so much easier. If I look at my alerts and I know that the profit account is, say for example, there's some money in the profit account, I know that this is pure profit. There's no, and if I
Yeah.
see money in the main account, even though it looks like a lot of money, it's not my money. It has nothing to do with, and even planning for like the end of the year. Okay, if we make this amount in profit, these are the bonuses. So everyone sort of is carried along. Everyone sees. I believe that many people will not touch their books because they're afraid to, see that they're not making money. We didn't make enough money in January, for example.
So, and
I was,
I find that so interesting, right? Because I personally can't make any moves without looking at my cash flow statements, my profits and loss, my balance sheets, because it t- literally tells you if you're actually doing the work, to make profits or not, or whether your strategies
right.
are working or not, right? Like, so with every project, I like to try to approach it from a numbers perspective, right? Not how much we would like to make, but how much are we actually making? So we said we wanted to sell, 1,000 books every week, right?
Okay.
And we're going to do XYZ every month to or every week to generate like the sales. The only way that I can know whether that these strategies are working or not is if I'm actually tracking the metrics, right?
Yep.
My cash flow statement is important because I need to know if I have enough lifeline, a lifeline, from day to day to be able to pay salaries, pay bills,
Yeah.
survive,
Yeah.
like before we even get to like the profit stage. So I think it's so key to be able to interpret your financial statements. And there's nothing I feel I want to say is not that complicated because if you have an accountant that prepares your books and all of that, you need them to be able to even explain it to you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Have faith that you know more about your business than this person. They just have a technical skill. If you say to your accountant, okay, listen, we launched this product line, 6 months ago, and I want to be able to see what was actually the cost structure? What do we spend? Everything, logistics, apart from, what we paid in salaries and everything, logistics, all those tiny things that you think don't matter or are little but add up like in the long run. How much revenue did we generate, and how did we generate the revenue? Was it from a corporate client? Was it from a bunch of retail clients? Like, it helps me see, ahead what we're trying to achieve, or if we're achieving the things that we set out to do, right? But I find that most people make the mistake of using vanity metrics as opposed to actual success, metrics. So,
Absolutely.
oh, now I have this brand, and I'm being posted on Bella Niger, my followers are growing, and Toka Makinwa is wearing my designs, and I have a big brand, but they're not looking at, when Toka wears my designs, right? How
What's
many
the
units do I
conversion?
sell, right? Am I even prepared to sell the units? Because you give an influencer something to wear, right? They wear it, it's fantastic. He has posted on all the blogs, more people want it, people are calling and making inquiries, but you don't have it. Oh, get it. And you now frustrate, the
You
customer
can't even,
experience.
in fact,
Yeah, because you created all this demand that you don't have supply for, right?
yeah,
Where you could have done it backwards by saying, oh, you know what? This collection is going to pop. We're making 100 units. We give one to an influencer and do employ all these different strategies to
yeah,
make sure that we sell these 100 units. And then at the end of the day, we know, okay, this is the profit that we were targeting, or we only sold 75% of the stock. Why? Why did that happen? Right?
yep.
So I feel like it's simple things like that, logical things, as opposed to people being like, oh my God, I don't want to look at my books because what if I'm not making any money? In fact, that's when I want to look at the books. Because when I'm
Yeah,
not making money, that's when I want to look at the books, because I want to see,
exactly. What's
what am
happening?
I doing wrong? What can I change? Do I need to reduce the costs? Do I need to find more creative ways of generating revenue? Are the strategies that I'm employing to generate revenue right now
Right.
actually working? Right?
Yeah,
So we take some of those
yeah.
things for granted.
Hmm. I mean, interestingly, a few things you said. Before I forget, what I was trying to say with the fashion for profit was that I got about 37 people who signed up and came to the class, and the first thing I said was, who can tell me how much they need in 2019? Even if you don't want to declare the figure, like you actually know it, and nobody could. And I said, there's a problem in this industry. We all have friends who took different paths, like, maybe at the same time as you decided to do this, I decided to do that. I'm starting a brand. And, 10 years down the line, you are still saying the same thing. I don't know what's happening to my money. Meanwhile, your friend has invested in like 2 properties. She's, she's gone. Like financially, she has blown. And you're still like struggling, but then you have all this like exposure and name. And I remember based on what you were saying about like producing stuff, even just saying to people, like I work with a factory in Enugu now, the minimum is 50 pieces per design.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it because my vision is big. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I have only 10 tailors. I can't employ more tailors. And going around all these meetups, the question is always, oh, how do I get tailors? And I'm like, guys, we can't keep asking these questions 10 years later. What is the next step?
Yeah.
So for me, it was outsourcing. So I have my small production unit, but I want to do more numbers. I'm looking at exports. So I need to start looking at outsourcing production. That in itself is an issue for a lot of people. I want to
Anyway,
protect myself.
to
Like,
my
yo,
design.
you can't protect. Like at this point, you have to be strategic. You have to be fast. I mean, you wake up as a Nigerian designer. Your design is on AliExpress. AliExpress has done 500,000 pieces. You are still struggling with 20 pieces. Do you understand? And you are okay with it. Like you can't be. So, what I did was I realized that if I want to make something big out of this brand, I have to completely realign my thinking. Um, going to fashion weeks. And I mean, it's so interesting. When I was reading the book, I was just laughing. I was like, oh my God, because, it's
I
great,
also
but
got a little creative about what I would like to see like going forward. So, some of the
yes.
stuff like that I was writing about doesn't actually exist in Nigeria. Like so like those showcases, for
Yeah,
investors and things like that. Well, I just thought it was an interesting idea that I thought that somebody can actually figure this out. Like because fashion is such a it can be such a big export for Nigeria. Like we are I don't arguably the most fashionable on the continent and everyone
absolutely.
wants to dress like us, wants to mimic some of the stuff that we do. So how do we make this bigger? And I think one of the biggest problems as well is in your industry is everybody wants to become a fashion designer, but people are not necessarily looking at the value chain
Yeah,
in the industry and saying, so like this problem now with tailors, there should be more people saying, oh, I just want to focus on production for fashion designers. My
absolutely.
goal every year
That's a
is going
big
to be,
business.
is to take the big people who have the big brands, they have the names already, 10 of them every year and say, I'm going to produce for you. And
Yeah,
minimum quantity orders, you focus on the quality of what is being produced as opposed to all the other stuff that Ogwa is doing online, like the marketing or the strategy, the sales strategy, all of that stuff. You're just focused on the production, or you're
yeah.
focused on raising financing for the fashion industry.
Fashion brands,
Yeah,
yeah.
because again, I feel like they're not enough um, financial products that actually cater
Target fashion
to
brands.
yeah.
And I think that it boils down to a few things. Like if you have, for example, I'll give an example. Like when we printed a statement after some years, and we saw that, oh, you know what, hundreds of millions have passed through the account, and it was that the account officer pretty much said, but your balance, I mean, hundreds of millions, but your balance is not reflected because it just looks like the money is passing through. It's not sitting or it's not going into a fixed deposit or something. So the bank will be a bit iffy about that kind of account. That, oh yeah, yeah, you have money, but we can't loan you money because we can't really see money sitting in your account. That means that you won't have money to pay us back.
Yeah.
And based on even just saying that, you know what, I want to raise money, and you don't even know, you don't have timelines, because with the factory, what we go back and forth with is give us a date for delivery, because we have to plan. So if we do one collection, when is it going to be ready? When are we going to launch it? When are we going to start preparing for the next batch of things? And this is just ready to wear, right? So there has to be like a proper cycle and plan, and everyone has to work together so that you can now say, if I'm going to do 10,000 pieces a year, on average, and I use this example all the time, and I hope some people can learn from it. Like if you use targeted numbers and you say, I'm going to do 10,000 pieces a year and I'm going to make 5k on each piece, I'm hoping I'm making 50 million at the end of this year, and that's profit. That's not cost or anything else. So you're working towards making sure you have 5k profit on each item that you sell, and you target to produce 10,000. And the other thing is understanding your capacity, because if you have three tailors, you cannot produce 10,000 pieces in a
I was,
year.
I was actually
So
going to come to that, like, because
yeah,
the goal is all well and good, right? But the cocoa of the
yeah,
matter is how, right? So I can want to do 10,000 items
pieces.
like for the year, right? But I have to think about, like you said, capacity. How much do we actually produce every month now, right? So if I
Yeah,
said we're doing 1,000 pieces every month, um, do we actually produce and sell 500 pieces? Like, no.
yeah.
Do we, like, so am I going to be able to stretch my capacity from 500 to 1,000? And if I
Or
can, what
outsource
does
my
that look
production.
like? Exactly.
Yeah,
What does that look like? Does that look like, outsourcing the production? Does that look like hiring more tailors? Do I have
yeah,
capital to be able to hire more tailors or
yeah.
outsource, right? Or buy fabric for 1,000 pieces. So the core of the matter
Exactly.
for me is always the how part, right?
Yeah.
The how are we going to achieve this goal?
that and I think that, there's something that a lot of people, and I think I only just even started to see it a lot, because when the more conversations you have with people starting business, the more you see it. And it's the euphoria or the excitement of the planning phase that is so it's
I
overwhelming, it's
yeah, yeah.
consuming. It just feels like, oh my god, I've stumbled on the answer to life,
Yes.
and this my
You
business is going to be
discovered
so
Facebook.
you know and then when the business starts, you can't believe in like a few months you meet the same person. You're like, how, what's going on? Like, oh yeah, no, this thing isn't working, I can't really. And then, just transitioning from being a planner and whatever to the actual doing, and realizing that it's not funny at all. Every single thing, everything. I sat down with someone recently and we were talking about costing, and I was like, do you know how much you spend on lights every month? Oh, I don't know. Do you know how much you spend on, diesel, or even just them going to the market to buy stuff? You have to have numbers for everything. It's so important to not just leave something to estimates, even though yes, you have to estimate some things, even with the numbers, but at least make sure it covers. Um, and there was something also that I read in the book where Shola was talking to Tammy, and he
Yeah.
said, she said, "Oh, how do I know that people will buy the stuff?" And it's so important for people to recognize what they are doing. So, as a brand, who are you selling to? Who is this person? And you wrote clearly about that. You can't be designing workwear that is open in front with cleavage showing. How many people would dress like that to work? And so when I even see some things, they're very, very obvious mistakes.
Yeah.
If you want to design workwear, sit down with 50 women who go to work
Mm-hmm.
and just ask questions. You will get your answers. You'll be able to design stuff that will sell out without a doubt. They will tell you, oh, don't do any skirts that are too short.
Yeah.
Don't do any things that are open. People want to cover their sleeves. They want to look smart but still stylish. Da, 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 da. Then once you do that, you can sit down and design a collection based on your feedback from working women. Because we don't work 9 to 5,
Yeah.
so how will you even know what a working woman wants to wear? So, or like a plus size person, I sat down with someone who's plus size, and she just gave me a few pointers that I was like, wow, if I was going to do a plus size collection, I would know exactly what to do just by having that conversation. Don't do big prints, it makes us feel bigger. We can't wear sleeveless stuff. There's certain things, find a way to help us snatch our waist, design stuff that will give us the illusion of a smaller waistline. And those few points put together,
Help you design the product properly. Yeah.
sold out pieces,
You
sold
know
out
what's so
pieces.
interesting about what you said, right? Like, so with the book, especially like with different aspects of it, like the fashion industry and all of that, like to do it, I didn't just, even if my sister is a fashion designer, so I've had to sort of like live through some of the pain points that she's had to deal with.
Right.
But I had to speak to different Nigerian fashion designers to actually, have conversations around like their pain points. And that's why I put that there. So that conversation with Shola and Tammy was actually born from a question that kept coming up with fashion designers when I was asking them, okay, so this is my idea about why you can't scale or why it's not working, right? So why don't
Mm,
you produce the collections beforehand? Why don't you produce the units beforehand, right? And
right.
then start focusing on marketing and
And
selling
are
it like
pushing to
you don't
sell out.
have
Yeah.
to. And the issue that kept coming up was, oh, I don't want to, because if I produce 100 units, what if I don't sell 100 units,
Yeah.
right? And the thing was, they didn't have faith enough in their designs to be able to say, yeah, this design pops. People are going to love it, and I'm going
Yeah.
to sell. So there's a fear of, what if I create this thing and I produce these many units and then it's stuck in inventory. My money is stuck in inventory, right? But
Yeah.
I love what you said now about like actually going around speaking to different types of women, your target audience, and asking them, what do you want? What makes you feel special? What makes you feel, beautiful and bold and all of that? But more importantly, if you've been doing this for a while, right, you should know when we design this is sold out. Like if
Yeah.
we did something slightly similar, it will sell out as well, right? And
Yeah.
obviously they're not hard and fast rules, because there are
No.
going to be some collections that you don't make as much money on, and there are going to be some collections that you do better than you expected. But it's about really like planning so that you can, and planning to track it, like actually knowing what your different success metrics are, and
Right.
being able to measure whether you succeeded or failed, and by how
Yep.
much, right? So
Yeah.
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 I love that you said
Yeah.
that. I love that you picked that out, because I put in a lot of work in doing like the research.
Absolutely. I mean, it was so spot on. Like everyone needs to read. Every designer needs to read this book, especially about Tammy, because it just is very. It's an eye opener. It just makes you sort of realize certain things. And for me, I think that just coming to a place where after you do this for a while, you have to sort of understand where you're going. What do you want? I think that the troubles or the problems that people have, especially in their minds, is because there's no real destination. And there's nothing wrong with even changing destination or changing
Yeah.
the means to get into your destination. But just knowing that, okay, this is what I desire to do in terms of the money I want to make, just having figures and plugging them in and saying, how am I going to make 100 million this year?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to come from here or here or here? And just having those things put together and then working towards them actively, dedicating 2 hours a day to each thing, and then just pushing them forward. As brand owners, it's time to scale up. I've been saying this. It's crazy because people are still so small-minded, and it's
Mm.
okay to have a small brand. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's what you're going to use to survive and live, I mean, we can see how the cost of living is crazy. Um, so you can't be saying you're making, I don't know what, maybe 2 or 3 million from your brand, and you say, oh, okay, I'm okay with that. Like, if you can do that, you can do more. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to start thinking about more. There's a lot of opportunities. It's crazy how sitting down to talk to people now, the kind of things that are happening. There are people who have no physical store,
Yep.
no online presence. They're doing more money than me. Um, all they did was find a route or a way to export,
Mm.
find people to help them distribute in different countries, produce and just export.
So yeah.
A lot of things are just like during the lockdown, a few things happened. I mean, obviously, out of boredom, I just sat down and I wrote down some stuff about, like, just talking to someone or my younger self. What would I have done differently when I started? Because obviously, I can sit here all day and talk about all the mistakes, every single mistake. But just being able to sit down and write it out, I just realized, okay, now I get a better understanding. I can leave my business for 3 months and it's running, and that for me is so
Yeah.
much progress. I can sit in the store and a customer walks in and they don't know who I am, and I love it. I'm sitting at a wedding, someone
Look
walks
at my
past with,
baby doing its thing without me.
sorry, yes,
Like, look at my
exactly.
baby doing its thing without me. Yeah.
Exactly. So those are the things that people need to start dreaming about, because a lot of people are still in that phase where if I'm not there, the customers don't want to see anyone else. I'm like, yo, you will die because you can't cope. Like if you are planning to grow and you are growing, how are you going to meet everyone? One customer is going to take 4 hours of your time.
I've even
That's when
realized that I'm not even a customer facing person. Like, I'm not a retail customer facing person. Like, that's never
exactly,
something I should be doing because I'm too much of an
exactly.
emotional person. I need structures in place so that other people can deal, with
And
retail
exactly.
customers. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's hard for people to swallow because everybody say, that means you're not ready for business. Cause, and I'm like,
Mm.
well, maybe that person isn't my client because
Yeah.
if you can't really like bend to fit everyone. You have to find your tribe pretty much. Like you said, you have to be able to say, this is what I want for my business, and I'm going to attract the people who understand this and come
Yeah.
work, run with it. A customer can come while you're busy trying to design a new collection and want you to help her pick stuff off the rack and style her. She has to make an appointment and you have to make the time. So there are a lot of things I've grown to realize, which obviously I didn't start out like this. And I penned a lot of stuff down in the book, even down to in ebooks. Sorry, I wrote down these ebooks, and even down to even how to even start a fashion brand without breaking the bank. So even thinking about how you want to start your brand, and people realizing that everything is based on demand, it's based on the market. You can't be designing something when you don't have an idea that there's a market for it. And once you get to that place where there's a market, everything else is, the opportunities are endless. But you've managed to start with a little money and you're growing with that money. So it's almost like you're compounding. You're not looking for 50 million to start, pay 20 million in rent, pay 10 million in machinery first, and not
Well,
even thinking of how you're going to get that money out. Um, it's scary, to be honest, because I mean the way things are running in Nigeria, so much money is going into the wrong things. Not enough money is going into marketing, not enough money is going into advertising. It's crazy how people don't want to spend money on advertising. It's crazy. Like literally, just
like,
to put
yeah,
something in an ad, they're like, ah, why? It's too much, and you're like, but you spent 100K just doing something that is not bring any money. So I don't know what it is that the mental block with
mental block.
spending money on advertising, and obviously everybody will find advertising that suits them, suits their budgets and all that. But just knowing that, and you said that in the book as well about people are on their phones. People are not really on billboards, like even in the car you are down like this,
I'm
you're not
telling
looking.
you,
Really, really, I connected with that so much because I thought about it. I was like, yes, you
sometimes
actually
I have to be in someone else's car to realize that, oh wow, this building just came up in Lekki. I didn't even know when they were building it, because when I'm in my
absolutely,
own car, I'm in the in the back, like
yeah.
laptop or my phone. So
You're
yeah,
on the phone, you're replying messages, your car time is actually work time. You're trying to get things done before you get from point A to B. Um, you are not, even when you're watching TV, you're on your phone. You always switch back to check something and you might stumble across one dress and you're like, this dress isn't bad. Let me order it. So there's just so much going on the
yeah,
online space, and just people just need to push themselves more. I definitely think that the book is amazing in so many ways. It really shows. It's amazing, even just who you surround yourself with.
yeah,
It's a wake up call to realize that if you read this book and you look around you and the people around you aren't even contributing to your financial growth.
yeah.
And you might sound fleeting because they say money is not everything, and I don't understand when people say that. But I'm like, how do you? I mean, like,
Like you needed to.
like, how can you say? What do you mean? Money is not everywhere. What do you think? Money, money. I beg. And I'm
Not
like, I'm
everything,
not
but very
saying
important. It's extremely important.
absolutely.
Stop
I
trying
mean,
to
it's
deny
everything.
that.
Like every problem you see, there's a backstory to money.
Mhm.
Somehow, relationship issues, and you highlighted that as
Affect
well.
the choices you have the ability to make. Your
Absolutely.
food,
So,
the
it's important for
kind
people to
of,
start to have these conversations. Like, have the conversations. It's not an uncomfortable thing to have.
yeah.
Yo, guys, I'm broke. As in front of your friends. Like, I literally don't know what's going on with my life. I have no money. I don't know what's going. I need. I
See,
need.
like I feel like that's another true test of your friendship circle, right? Like, so with my core friends, like my besties that have been my friends since I was 10, like
Yeah.
I can be so vulnerable and so open, and we can say, listen, I ain't got no money. You
Exactly.
know,
Like, I can't do
I,
this.
but most people can't be real with
No.
their tribe or with their friends. Like,
Yes.
and it's sad. It's quite sad. And we need to start being able to have like open conversations about money as women.
Yeah.
So there are certain conversations about, oh, okay, where are you investing? What pain points do you have with your business? Like
Yeah.
the things that you might go through that if we talk about, even if I haven't gone through it yet, it can teach me something about another season that I'm going into, like in my life. So it's not just
Right.
about, it's not like having money conversations around, oh, please give me money or borrow me. It's about having money conversations about, oh, wow, how did you scale your business? Like, how did you go from 1 million to 10 million? Like, what made the difference? Right? Or, oh, I want to open up distribution channels in South Africa and Kenya and Tanzania. I see that you've done that. How were you able, to establish these distribution channels?
Right.
Like things like that. Like I just feel like it's important for us to start having more conversations around money that are not just cosmetic and are not about showing off and
No.
and oh, I have this or I have that. Because see me, I like nice things, right? I like nice things. I like, the good life, but I don't want that to ever define me. Like I'm not interested in somebody wanting to be my friend or wanting to know me because of what I have. Like
Yeah.
that's not, I don't know, that's just not a compliment, to me. I want to be in friendships or relationships that are, based on shared values where we can actually
Yes.
like be real with each other as opposed to, oh, both of us have a deal bag,
Judging.
so we can be friends, which is something that I feel like goes around, like, or is happening in our culture a little bit
So
more
much.
than like is necessary, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, people.
I mean, Aras, you wrote so much. I don't even think you realize how much you wrote.
Thank you.
And I'm not saying this because you gave me the book to read, and and I'm not saying this because I'm here, but honestly, like literally, I had so many moments reading through the book. Just light bulb moments, eureka moments, like just saying, aha, this is it. And and so guys, please just find that book and read it. Absolutely important for any woman. I think you will identify as one of the characters in that book
Definitely,
without a doubt. You
definitely.
must. There'll be something in one of the characters that you identify with. Either you're the person who spends money you don't have, me, you're the person who, is extremely cautious, but you have a partner who isn't.
Yeah.
There's so much in that book that, as speaks to one of every one of us. And it's not just about reading it; it's about now saying, "What do I
How do I
do
apply
differently?"
it? Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing time. It's the beginning of a new year. There's so much that goes on in your mind about how to make a better year out of this year than last year. So, starting off even just having some new thoughts, infused into your
Yeah.
head would help. So please, guys, go out and get Smart
Thank
Money
you
Tribe by
so
all
much.
means.
I just want to round up by saying that you guys, can you see how fabulous Ogwa is, right? And she's read the book. So this is something that I feel like keeps coming up all the time. Like when people hear that, oh, I wrote a book about smart money and financial literacy, it always sounds like, oh, I'm writing it to judge people about spending, right? Meanwhile, it's like if you actually read the book, it's not about shaming people for
No,
spending money. It's about
at all.
how do we have employ strategies that help
Yes,
us balance spending and saving and
absolutely.
investing. How do we find strategies that help us make financial decisions on a daily basis? And basically just breaking down financial jargon that other people who don't have a finance background may not understand, and that
Yeah,
most people who do have a finance background cannot explain. So
yeah,
it is not, so I'm not coming from a, oh my God, I know everything. And like, I'm judging you, like, don't buy this or don't do this. I'm coming from a, listen, I've gone through financial seasons that are not great as well over the course of my life.
of
I've had to
course.
learn some very hard lessons.
But
And these are some of the lessons that I've learned, and they've worked. They worked for other people as well. Do you get what I mean? Like, so it's not about judging. It's about saying, listen, what when we all go through hard times, right? Like
yeah,
when we do go through hard times, or when we are trying to figure out like our financial way in the world, what strategies can help me get from point A to point B, like realistically, right? So it's a very non-judgmental book, guys. Fashion people. But thank you
a very
so
non-judgmental
much.
guy. I mean, for anyone to even think that, I don't know, sorry to say, you have to, check what PTSD you're dealing with because, I mean, I don't understand why you would even think that. It
Yeah,
has nothing to do. It's not personal. Clearly, it's based on a lot of experiences. If you read through, I can tell that, this is based on people's personal stories. We all have friends who are going through things we don't want to talk about, but
yeah,
it's there, it's glaring, it's in your face. At the end of the day, will your friend, I mean, I talk to my dad sometimes, and just even seeing how life for a lot of his friends who did well in the beginning but ended up not having anything, from hero to zero, and the mistakes that were made along the line. These are people who can't even afford 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, and
oh,
were big men in the past. What happened? How did they
So
go from
funny because there's certain like success metrics that like at our age, like people all want you to have this or do this or whatever. But you see, this story that you're saying, because I've seen it happen so many times, it scares me. So I'm not
there? It's
in a
so
hurry
scary.
to have certain things before I'm ready because I'm more afraid of getting to a point in my life where I can't work or hustle as hard as I am doing now and not have any real things to show for it, right? Like I can't be singing that kind of song when I'm
Yes.
50 or when I'm 60 or whatever. Like, and when you have children as well, you experience certain things, you don't want them to experience it. So it's all about, I feel, finding balance,
Yeah.
understanding that money is in seasons. There are going to be booms and there are going to be busts, and how do you manage both, right? As opposed to getting so bogged down with who has what, or I better pass my neighbor, I not better pass my neighbor, all those things. But oh my God, this conversation has been so amazing. Thank you so, so, so much, Ogwa, for
Thank you so
your
much.
time. I really, really enjoyed it. So follow
Thank you.
Ogwa
I'm
on
so
Instagram. She's so
Thank you. And
popping.
Aresa, when I come to Lagos, I'm going to book an appointment because I want to be in this tribe. I have to be in this tribe.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
honey.
much.
Bye. Okay, let me stop recording.